What's happening, world? I'm your host, the Wizard of Woz, Benji Wozniak. And this week, Kyra and I are going to continue the Keanu Reeves following, and we're going to do the movie Hardball from 2001.
2001. So I feel like this is, to me, I had seen Hardball before I had seen The Replacements. This movie, everyone was talking about it. Some interesting facts about this movie. This movie was released on September 14th, 2001. So this movie was released immediately after 9/11, and it actually topped the box office that weekend when it had come out, which to me is insane because this country had suffered a crazy tragedy, and then this movie is so sad. I was like, oh, we were all depressed.
Yeah, this is like, if you get a chance to see this, I mean, this is a tearjerker. I mean, even for, like, I don't care if you're a guy or not, and you're like, I don't cry at movies. You'll cry at this movie because it's sad.
It's sad. Something so interesting about me, if you had listened to last episode, you know I do not watch sport films, but I do watch dance films. So this movie reminded me so much of this dance movie called You Got Served. Have you ever seen it?
I did see that. Yes,
okay.
I've actually seen that.
With G Baby and Little Saint, I saw so many parallels. And then even in the dance movie Step Up, I'm going to talk a lot about different films in this because, I mean, maybe Hardball was the blueprint. To say Hardball was also based on a book. So as you know, Ben and I, we don't read the books, but we do see the movies.
Yep, that's true. And we love the movies and we review the movies.
Something that I think I want to talk about, and we can talk about this more as we like get into the film. The book written by a white person, the movie adapted, written by a white person, directed by a white person. And I think that's really interesting because I think a lot of some of the dialogue that we hear and some of like the ways that they view like the hood or like the projects or like where these kids are like from and living, I think is super interesting because some parts felt very real and then some parts did not. Like it was like, I don't think you've ever talked to a person of color. I don't think you have ever been to the projects. Like, I don't know how you started this, but let's get into the film. So we have Keanu Reeves just in debt, gambling, looks like a degenerate. Like awful.
Oh yeah. He's definitely having a hard life.
He's just chain smoking throughout the film. And his like, is it his friend that the finance guy? Like I couldn't.
Yeah, it's a high school friend.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So his high school friend's like, hey, come help me teach baseball. And he's like, what? Okay. So they go to this lot behind a building and he's like, this is baseball. You have this like ragtag group of kids. Again, in any sport movie, we have our ragtag group of underdogs that we're all pulling together. They find out they're 2 kids short, so they can't even qualify for any team. So they have to recruit 2 kids. And in recruiting 2 kids, we meet G Baby, who is very young, and they let him play a little bit. And he's kind of like the team mascot, I would say.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Everyone loves him. So they're bad. Keanu Reeves is not a good coach. Something that felt odd to me about this film, again, because I don't understand some parts of it, is that all these kids go to a private Catholic school in the hood.
Yeah, I didn't understand that part either because I grew up in the hood. And, I mean, we had St. Mary's, which was, well, not a private school, but it was a Catholic school. And people went there. They had the option to go there. And then but yeah, so it was kind of strange to me, and like they had like I don't know if you ever seen pictures of Cabrini Green from Chicago. It kind of the building complex they lived in kind of reminded me of Cabrini Green, and that was kind of a tough place to live for like for Chicago. You couldn't even go in there like unless you like knew someone in there and like weren't going to get killed. So that's how bad it was.
That makes sense. So yeah, so obviously they live in the projects, but they all have incredibly nice uniforms, and their uniforms always look good for their private Catholic school. Crazy. I'm going to nitpick some parts of this movie because that part to me was actually insane. So we have Keanu Reeves hitting on a young Diane Lane, and she's like, what do you think? I'm no nun. And it's like, okay, babe, what's happening here? Are you in it? Are you not? So now Keanu Reeves is coaching. His finance bro friend is kind of a piece of shit. Doesn't really give him anything. He kind of like is like here and gone. I don't know. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, he's basically just someone like Keanu goes to him for like $10,000 so he doesn't get murdered. And the guy's like, look, I already gave you money for your dead father. how many times is your father gonna die? And he's like, no, it's nothing to do that. He's like, it's nothing like that. And he's like, look, I'm not gonna give you this money, but I will make you work for money, and I'll give you $500 every week.
Oh yeah, and I was like, who can live off of $500?
Yeah, not me.
No one can. And I mean, maybe in 2001 you could. I don't know. So he gets $500 a week, and then he's like able to say. Oh, so he's still gambling throughout this, chain smoking throughout this, not really coaching the kids. They have this like group of kids. They start learning how to kind of work together. And then one of the coaches on the other team is like, once they start doing well, is like, hey, one of your kids' birth certificates, a young Michael B. Jordan, who I was like, oh my God, Michael B. Jordan, who knew that you were in this? They're like, his birth certificate, he like lied on it. So he like couldn't play. He was like aged out of the thing. And then he's like, but my mom said it was okay. Like, she wants to keep me off the streets. And I would have been like, yeah, this other coach is being a dick. And then Keanu Reeves was like, okay. There's a plot twist with Jamal that comes later. We have a bigger boy on the team who Keanu Reeves makes them stay late at practice one day. And the kid's like, hey, can you like walk me home? And Keanu Reeves is like, nah, which is like, first of all, crazy. He's an adult in charge of all these children. And I want to talk about another movie that I'd seen, because I guess I do watch more sport movies than I think. So Keanu Reeves is like, nah, dude, walk home by yourself. This kid's walking home, somehow gets a pizza. I don't know where the pizza comes from, but he gets the pizza and he's walking home and he's scared. And it's late at night and he's like 10, maybe 9. And he gets jumped by these two dudes who just like steal his backpack. First of all, you're two grown men and you're robbing a 10-year-old with a pizza. His pizza goes flying. He's all upset. He goes to the hospital. The mom's like, Keanu, what are you doing? You're being a bad coach. You're being a bad guy. You let my 10-year-old son walk home alone. His backpack got stolen. Not to, like, who are these thugs? I don't know. Craziness.
Yeah, no, like when I was younger, like the older kids would like pick on me and like they'd give me like pink bellies and noogies and take me by my underwear and stick me on a fence. Like, but they were just goofing. Like, they weren't trying to like. In really
this
hurt
movie,
me.
they like beat the shit out of the kid.
The hell out of this kid. No, these guys didn't like do that to me. This was more like they tried to get me tougher. Like, they wanted to make me tougher. And I'm not justifying it. Like, no one should be picked on and bullied. But they weren't doing it to hurt me.
Yeah, and in this movie, it felt very malicious. And I feel like you said, like, that's not true. Like, you can do. I don't know. I never grew up in that kind of environment. So
not fun.
Everything I can speak to is not going to be from my point of view. It's just what I've read and heard. So then Keanu was like, oh, maybe I should care a little bit. Starts to care a little bit and then places this huge bet and wins. So he wins like 12 grand, I think.
Yeah, he won 12 grand.
Yeah, he wins like 12 grand. And then with this money, he's like, I'm going to take these kids to a baseball game so they can see how a real team works together. And the kids are like, oh my God. And then it is like inspiring. And then they start working better together. There's this great scene where this kid always wears headphones, right? And
I love it when you call me Big Papa.
So yeah, so they this kid always wears headphones, and then one of the other dickhead coaches, because these coaches are again bullying these 10-year-old kids.
It's the same coach.
It is the same coach, but still, I'm like, why do you give a shit? And he's like, he can't wear headphones, but the headphones help him concentrate. So in an act of coming together, the team all sings Biggie Smalls' Big Papa, which is a wild song for any 10-year-old to sing. But again, I guess it's what's popular. Thought it was crazy that they couldn't sing the edited version of it. There's like a very clear edited version that they could sing. Don't know why they don't. Ridiculous, I think. Little kids swearing up and down this movie.
So I'm a street kid, and we did the same thing.
I get it.
We did the same thing. Like, we listened to NWA, and we listened to, like, we did all that stuff, and we swore, and we were thugs, and and
that's thugs.
And that's what we did. But we weren't harming anybody. Like, we were just into the music and into the, like, the understanding of the music, like, like knowing that, like, our lives were kind of like that. Like, we weren't like killing anybody like in some of the songs, but we were hanging out, partying, doing the things, and laughing, and just loving life, and like, so I got that. I was like, I get that.
I get that, but still, I'm just saying.
It's not good.
Keanu Reeves could have sang the edited version. He's white.
He's an adult.
He's white.
You're not. What do you think you are? You're like Eminem? Sorry.
Literally. So all this happens, and then G Baby and one of his brothers, they're trying to walk back to their home, and there is a gang outside that's kind of trying to like shoo them away. And we see the bigger boys come aside, like the older dudes, and we see Jamal all thugged out because, of course, if he isn't playing baseball, he's on the streets. Which, again, I believe it happens, and it's devastating. Keanu Reeves could have done something more, but what do I know? So Jamal is, I think, kind of trying to be like, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And then they do not get out of there. The other gang comes and there's a shootout. And then the older brother and G Baby go off to the side. And while they're over on the side, he's like, the brother's like, we survived. First of all, I want to talk about this shooting because what bullet could have hit G Baby? Because unless these guys are the worst aimers, which they probably are, like
ricochet shot. It might have hit the concrete.
It could have. Okay, we'll go with a ricochet shot because if not, these guys are bad at shooting. So we find in his brother's arms, traumatizing. This movie is traumatizing. We find in his brother's arms a dead G Baby.
But it's worse because G Baby actually like got a uniform at the beginning of the movie. They pass out uniforms. He doesn't get one. He's so upset. But then Keanu Reeves gets this money. He buys uniforms and he gives G Baby a uniform.
And he lets them hit the ball.
Yeah, he lets them. They're in the championship game and they're like 1 out away. And he's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna let G Baby bat because this is his dream. I'm gonna let this kid live
his dream.
And then it goes to the funeral and what happens?
Keanu Reeves speaks, which I thought was insane. This man who's known this family for, I'm going to say 3 weeks, maybe a month. Guys, I don't know. Time in this movie doesn't make sense to me. And then he speaks at the funeral. The mom is like, you should get up and talk. This homeless man should get up and talk? He has been chain smoking and swearing at your kids this whole movie. And you want him to speak?
I think it was, so what it was is basically, it was them trying to have Keanu Reeves give a eulogy about this kid's courage and heart and determination.
No, and I get that. I get that.
Because he hits the ball.
And he's so...
And, like, he actually gets the win. He's the one that gets the team to win. And, you know, he runs down the baseline. They talk about his, like, energetic smile and how he can light up a room. And he, like makes you like think about this kid, and the kid does, like, if you watch this movie, the kid does all this, like
he does. He is this little kid actor really put his whole heart into this performance.
He was awesome, and I was like, wow, this like when he passed, oh my god, like I was like in tears. I was like, what? Why this kid? Why you hurt him?
It is devastating when he passes. It is something that's incredibly difficult to watch because no one wants to watch a child die, especially a child who just like lived his dreams. They play this like crazy little Bow Wow song in it. I forgot how popular Lil Bow Wow was at that time. And then obviously they win, and then in the beginning there's like a scene where the kids are talking and they're like, oh, are we gonna get trophies? Are we gonna get trophies? And the movie ends with them all holding their trophies, and like it is like a nice moment. Keanu Reeves realizes that he's like better than gambling and he can be a good coach. And so I'm gonna talk about little kid deaths and how they are used to further plots, because this death was used to further the plot of the team and Keanu Reeves' development, which I think is crazy because we should never kill a child to develop an older man's character.
No, not at all. But I just mad props to Dwayne Warren, who is the character of who's the person that played the G Baby character.
Okay,
mad
shout out
props
to you, dude. You did awesome. I don't know. So I thought that was like really, I thought that was crazy because like I had mentioned in the movie You Got Served, they kill Little Saint and then they turn their names into the Little Saints and then they end up winning the competition because they can come together as a team. And then in Step Up, and I am going to forget the kid's name, they kill the younger brother of Channing Tatum's friend, which is insane. And then this turns his friend around to be like, oh, dancing is cool. Like, I am so sick of little kids dying for these story points. I will say I watched, again, I'm realizing I've watched more sport movies than I thought.
Gotcha.
I watched I don't know if you had seen it. It's called The Underdogs, 2Gs. It's Snoop Dogg's new movie on Amazon.
No, I saw it. I didn't watch it yet.
Okay, it's literally this movie, but without a death, and Snoop Dogg just being a dick. And it's little kids swearing up and down again, but there are no deaths. But it reminds me of like the same thing of like you have this guy who well, in The Underdogs, he is a former player, but he's like an asshole.
I think Keanu's is too. Keanu Reeves
Yeah.
is, but he just like fell on hard times.
Yeah, and is a degenerate gambler. In this one, he's just like an asshole. But it like literally is the same movie. He comes to coach these kids. There's a love interest. He's got to bond them together. Then he leaves and then comes back. It's like every movie is remember what I was saying? Every movie is the same.
Yeah, it's like tragedy and the triumph. Like they're overplaying the tragedy and the triumph situations.
Exactly. I mean, in The Underdogs, they don't kill a child, thank God. But in the Hardball, they do.
Yeah, yeah. Terribly. Oh, gee, baby.
And I get it. Like, obviously, like, you can talk about gang violence, you can talk about gun violence, and you can talk about, like, the problems that, like, these lower income areas face. And, like, you can do that. But at the same point, the movie felt tonally off because it didn't really talk about any of that. It was kind of just like, this is a product of their environment, which is fine. But why don't you want to make more of a message about how you can fix this? Baseball's gonna fix it? No.
Not at all.
It's like insane. It's insane. And I get it. Sports is like an avenue, and after school programs are an avenue. And I talk about this a lot in my personal life about how we should not cut school funding. We should not cut arts funding. We should not cut, that no one will ever cut sports funding, but we should not cut these fundings out of these inner cities. We should not cut community services and community projects. Like, I do believe, and I will say this, and I will get political, and you guys don't have to agree with me on that. I don't think we should fund the police as much as we do. I don't believe that they will help. What will help? After school programs, community services, art classes, music classes, any kind of interactive thing that will get these kids engaged and give them an opportunity. Because like you and I were talking, like in a lot of places people will just tell you that you're not good enough and this is what you're worth. And I think having programs like these, and like obviously in this movie we're using baseball, but like having an outlet for these kids and having an outlet for anyone who really needs it, I think is super important, and we don't really see that often.
No, not at all. Like we were talking off the radio, that I grew up in Lynn, and like being from Lynn, you get stereotyped because it's considered a really bad city, the city of sin, and people look at you and they think you're never going to make it, you're not going to be anything, you're always going to be like a degenerate, and so like seeing this movie, I was like understanding that that you got the finger on you, thinking to keep you down, but sometimes you got to put that finger off and realize that you're more than that, you have worth.
Yeah, exactly. You do have worth. And it's like, and it's so interesting because I know that's what the message of these stories are. And especially in this one, and it's all about coming together as a team, and it's all about like doing this. And the death of G Baby does upset me because it's like, why do we have to sacrifice a child? We shouldn't ever. And I think in America, or in these like times, we see that like we don't protect our children like we should. You'll hear stories of kids that like can't afford hot lunch, and like the school systems are doing that. Not saying that the school systems can do anything because their hands are tied because of funding, because of where we decide as a society to allot our money, which I think is completely wrong. And I don't know why I'm getting on this tangent, and I will get off of it. But I don't think, but our children and the children of America are always the ones who suffer. I talk about this a lot at work. Our work does a lot with like food donation and food, like trying to help like those who are food insecure. And something that I think is crazy, us both living in New Hampshire, about 45% of people live below the poverty line here. That means 45% of children in schools are food insecure.
Oh yeah, like 100%, and you can see it.
And you can see it, and it's devastating. It's like, I hate to say it, and I guess Hardball is gonna make me shit on America today. Sorry guys, but if you look at it, like America, I think there's becoming this such great divide of like the haves and the have-nots, that like it is starting to really feel like a third world country. Like I know that we're not, but it feels like that. Like you see so many people going unhoused, so many people going unfed. You just see people starting to suffer more and more, and you see the cost of living going up and up, and you see no one doing anything to help anyone. Everyone is becoming more self-serving, and it's really devastating. Like I I don't know. It really breaks my heart. And watching a movie like this just cements that from 2001, nothing has changed.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to my friend Mike Sweeney in Lynn, Mass. He works for the Veterans Administration. Lynn had a huge veteran homeless situation there, and instead of like making more shelters and things like that, what he did was he took the money and he funded like counseling, drug counseling, and like he got them the help they needed. And I think that's one thing cities don't want to do. They don't want to spend the money on like trained professionals to help like educate these people to get better jobs, get them off drugs. Get the actual professionals that they could use to like make their lives better instead of just going to keep on making like homeless shelters. But shelters are great; they get them off the streets. But then what?
But then what? And then they're going to give money to cops. I'm sorry. If I see a person having a mental health crisis, the last person I want to call is a cop. Because, first of all, they're not trained to deal with that. They actually don't have any mental health training. That's why you hear so many stories of people who are having psychotic episodes getting shot. I'm sorry, maybe you should have a trained social worker or a trained therapist or a counselor or someone there to help them and talk them down. These people aren't violent. You're reacting in a way because you don't understand what's going on. Guess what? You're the least helpful ever in any situation. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I think that reflects back on this movie too, because when Keanu Reeves gets the money, he's leaving. He's like, here.
He's like,
your
fuck
equipment.
this. I'm
He's
done.
like, here's your equipment. I'm done with you. I'm sorry, I gotta go. And they're like, you know what? We don't need you anyway. We've never needed you. You're nothing. If you're gonna do this to us, then we'll survive. We've always survived. And I think that's when his eyes open up and he's like, yeah, I kind of need them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think in a way you can look at the story and it can feel very like white savior-y, right? On like Keanu Reeves' part, it's like, oh, he's coming in to like save all these kids from the projects, and like he's down on his luck, so like, but they're gonna teach him, and it's like all this stuff. But really, it's like they're the ones who save him, and he realizes that, and that's why he like goes back and takes them to the baseball game and gets them the jerseys, and is like, I'll be a good dude now.
Yeah, I think it was more like he's always cared only about himself.
Exactly.
And he never had anybody to care about. And then now he has these kids that are forced upon him, and he's like, all right. But then he actually realizes like, they have things going on in their lives worse than his. He might be an alcoholic, he might be in gambling debts, but these people their lives are endangered every day. Even going home is a danger. Like everything they do is a danger, and they survive, and they're strong. And where he's weak and scared, they aren't. They're like, you know what, we're gonna just do what we're gonna do to survive. And it opens his eyes to the fact that he's being like such a bad person that he has to change it.
Exactly. And then I think I had a really good point I wanted to make about that, and now it left my head because I'm an idiot. But no, and then you see that, and I think too, like, this is why we talk about, like, we were talking about teamwork in the replacements, and this I think is really important. But it's like when you think outside of yourself and when you can see the world for what it is, you realize that you're not as important as you think. And I think nowadays we live, I mean, even back in 2001 when we see Keanu, like, people don't understand. To me, this is all my personal opinion, I believe life is about service and how we can help others and how we can impact others. Because if life was here for us to be self-serving and greedy and materialistic and a ladder climber, I don't know what the word I'm trying to find is, but if that was what life would be about, then that would be a really lonely life, I think. And I think life wouldn't be worth living. Everyone talks about, like, yes, things are important, but what I think is really important is love and seeing the beauty in others and helping each other and understanding each other and making connections. I never want to, like, I don't know. I could get really rambly into this, so I don't want to get too rambly, and I think when Keanu Reeves realizes that there are things bigger than himself, that's when he can really readjust. Granted, don't know why a kid has to die. Again, I will come back to this point.
No, 100%. And I think, like, right now, everybody thinks the world revolves around them, but the world just revolves.
The world just revolves, and guess what? Like, hate to say it, but once you die, the world will not remember you. You know who will remember you? The people whose lives you've touched. We live on in people's hearts and in their memories and in their words and how they tell stories about us. That's how we live on. We don't live on in whatever imaginary imprint we make on the world, because that will get vanished. People will always surpass you. People will always be better. There's always going to be someone better than you. You can be the best version that you can be, but know that your best version, someone is going to have their best version, and that might be better than you. So why are we setting ourselves into this like race of like this cycle of like, I have to be the best, I have to do this, I have to make the most money. Again, I like, we were talking about this in the replacements. Like, it's all about just, what is your goal? What is your dream? How can you reach that? And I believe in my life it is helping others, and I try to help others every day.
No, I 100% agree. Like, so you walk by tombstones in the cemetery, and at one point in time, they're just names to you, but at one point in time, there was somebody to somebody. And
Exactly.
And now no one knows who they are, probably, and like what they, like who they were, what they went through. And like, that's like this movie. These are the forgotten, the people that no one cares about or wants. And they have goals and aspirations and dreams just like everybody else. And, you know, just because they're not from like a rich neighborhood doesn't mean they should be treated any less.
Exactly. And obviously, Keanu Reeves realizes that after a kid dies. I'm gonna be so mad about it.
Yeah, listen, because G Baby's death was awful. Like, I was like, wait, what? Why?
It's
gave
awful.
him his moment. Why give him his moment just to take his life away?
I mean, I know, and I think it's a very dramatic difference from what I'm about to say. But like when we were talking about in the replacements, when he shatters his leg, and Keanu's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and he's like, "No, you gave me the best moment of my life. Like, I'm fine now." I'm sorry, this little 5-year-old kid doesn't just to die because he lived out his dream. That's an insane thing that's an insane message.
Oh, 100%. It's an insane message. And, you know, it's like, oh, you get to live that. Like we were talking before, like, live your moment. Do your moment. You know, but why kill the kid? I'm like, wait a minute, hold on.
Why kill the kid? And then have nothing that talks about gun violence, nothing that talks about gang violence, nothing that hits on any of the points that you would think that it would. Like, there's no real commentary here about how to help these kids outside of baseball.
No, not at all. It's like this is how they live in the ghetto, and that's all it is. And like, no, that's not all it is. I mean, listen, just because you're from the ghetto doesn't mean that you're a bad person or like you're living in violence all the time. I mean, that's most of the time the people in the ghetto don't want trouble because they don't want the cops. They just want to be left alone. They want to do their own thing. Is there gang violence? Of course there is. But it's not as bad as like the white America makes it seem like everybody hates each other and doesn't get along. And that's not the case. Most of the times we just want to party, have fun, and be left the hell alone.
And the thing is, too, like, I think a lot of things are designed to tear us apart. And a lot of things, I think, are designed to keep us separated because they know that when we band together, we're stronger. And I do fully believe this. I mean, there are certain things that do target people that of a lower income and in certain parts of the country. There are systems and things that are targeted that keep them down. And that is an insane system. We, in America, it should be liberty and justice for all. And I don't believe that America is a fair country. I don't believe it cares about its citizens the way it pretends it does.
Well, think about this. What's the one thing you don't see in a rich neighborhood?
Cops?
A package store. There's no liquor stores in rich neighborhoods.
Really? Interesting. There's also no cops in rich neighborhoods.
So you know why there's liquor stores?
To keep people drinking.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy. And it's like, okay, and you know what? There's more fast food in low-income areas, too. I mean, I think it's so funny that McDonald's for the first time recorded a loss in profit. I think that's amazing. Shout out to everyone who's been protesting. I think that's awesome. And the CEO wants to say that it's not about the protest, but about how lower income families are not buying meals anymore. They're buying like cheaper, like maybe one thing, maybe two things. It's like, well, your prices are being raised and your quality is not going up. So actually, fast food is actually not a value like you think it is anymore.
No, it's phased out. I mean, those things are phased out. I mean, people want to. The times have changed. Like, it's like anything else. It had its moment, but times have changed.
Yeah, and like, I don't know why America can't change. And I don't know why I'm making this podcast all about us trying to change America, because we won't. I think maybe too, I just saw that movie Civil War. When it comes to streaming, we can talk about it.
Oh, that'll be fun.
I have a lot of thoughts about it. I won't spoil it out, but it really got me thinking about America and the state of America and how we talk about the things that we want and like the changes that we think we want, and how a lot of the times we really say nothing at all. And I think to me, that's like the most devastating part, because now we have the time to say something and to like live in this way that is good. And we're not. We're still all about money, all about being self-serving. And right now, everything feels a little dystopian. For those of you around the world, we're recording this on the 17th of April. So Coachella first weekend just happened in California. A huge festival, tons of money. And I think it's really dystopian, kind of like the way that the Met Gala is really dystopian. And you see all the richest people in the world just going and enjoying concerts and living their life and throwing their money around and doing this and doing that. And I'm not saying that all these millionaires and billionaires have to donate their money and like do the right thing. It's like, but why don't they want to? Because I see all my friends and they're all sharing the same $20, donating it to different charities and passing it back and forth and trying to do what they can for each other. And I can look at 45 people in that crowd and be like, you could go to a GoFundMe and clear out everyone's debt and it would be nothing to you. It would literally not even be what your salary is or what you make. And it's like, you just want to flit around here's the thing, you can't tell people what to do with their money, and I would never ever try to say that, and I'm not trying to say that, but it's like, why when people reach a certain amount of money that they just stop caring about others? That's my question.
Yeah, like there was a moment a while back, I think it was like $50,000 was donated by someone, and my wife chuckled, and I went, what? She goes, that's not even half of what they're going to make. She's like, they're just giving a little drop of what they could possibly give. She goes, then that's selfish. And I was like, I never thought of it like that.
It is selfish. And like, again, guys, I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do with their money. I'm poor with money. I spend my money and I try to give it away. And I try to do all these things that I think are important. But at the same point, it's like, I don't know where the disconnect happens. I don't know where people stop caring about others. And it's like, do you just hit a certain threshold? And it's like, all right, I'll donate X. And again, people, you can come for me in the comments. I'd love to hear all your thoughts. I really do. But I don't know. I don't know where the disconnect happens.
Yeah, agreed.
I would like to think if I ever inherited millions and billions of dollars that I would do these things. And I think I would hope I would. I don't know. But I don't know. Does money really change you? This is a different conversation. This is not about hardball anymore.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, guys. Well, actually, I can relate it back. Keanu Reeves got a little bit of money and he gave back to the kids.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And then she came full circle. A little rambly about America, but she came full circle, folks. Check out The Replacements. If you want to watch a movie similar to The Replacements without a kid dying, watch The Underdogs. If you want to watch a dance version of The Replacements, watch You Got Served or Step Up. Like, you could watch literally anything. These movies love to kill kids, except for The Underdogs. No kids die.
Yeah, so if you like Hardball, if you want to watch a good movie, watch Hardball. But yeah, get tissues.
Get tissues. And just know, again, no spoiler warnings. This movie's been out for like 24 years, 23 years. Great, though. Great film. Keanu Reeves, fantastic. I love watching his movies. And it was fun to do movies that people don't really talk about right now of his. Like, I know, like, Point Break people talk about, John Wick, Constantine. Like, these are all great. I mean, he does a lot of great things. The Devil's Advocate. Like, we could go on and on. But it was fun to watch sport Keanu.
Yeah, I had a fun time. Listen, if you're listening to us, please hit the like, subscribe, and follow buttons because, we want you in our family. Join the family.
Join the family. Sorry, guys, I get a little rambly. Sometimes I am passionate. But catch us next time on Woz Happening.